Suffolk Pod Show is produced and managed by podtalk.co.uk. I'm Mark Mason.
And I'm Susanna Hornby. Welcome to this episode. Our very special guest today is Doug Rintoul, who is Chief Executive, Artistic Director of the New Wolsey Theatre. Welcome, Doug.
Hello.
It's lovely to have you on here, and I'm quite surprised that you've never been on the Suffolk Pod Show before.
No, I haven't.
He looks at me in a vicious way. But it is great to have you here, and you've been at the New Wolsey Theatre now for 3 years?
I know. Can you believe it?
No.
Yeah, it's mad.
Well, what I can't believe is how much you've done in those 3 years.
Yes. I need a holiday.
Yes. You arrived here, I think it was May 22.
Yeah.
And you had a very different vision and it was a very different feel to you coming in.
Compared to Sarah.
Well, yeah, in many ways. I mean, you're very different people, obviously. Yeah. Before you got here, because obviously we're going to talk about what you've done, but before you got here, what was your vision for this theatre?
Before, I don't know, it was such a difficult time. It's interesting to think about, that question comes up quite a lot, but I don't think there's any time like 2022 because it wasn't really the time for a vision, to be honest. It was just about recovery because really the theatre was only just really properly reopening at that point. That was the priority, was to recover, which was to get audiences back and those particularly relationships with schools and with communities. It was just to completely rebuild all of those because, we did really brilliant stuff during COVID to keep that connectivity with audiences and communities. But naturally, over that period of time, obviously, there was a kind of disconnect from theatre and then also our creative communities work. So it was a terrifying moment to go, okay, well, we need to go and, we need to recover.
Recover and survival too at that moment.
Yeah, definitely. And then we didn't really have any expectation of what was coming, which was the cost of living crisis as well. So it's been an extraordinary 3 years. But, the brilliant thing about the New Wolsey is that it's loved. It's really, really loved. So I'm not saying the recovery was easy, but we're in a really great place.
Looking back at the last 3 years of your tenure so far, you've had some really bold programming. We'll come to that in a minute, but some also very big shows, and audiences have come back in the main. You've opened doors, many in your life, and you have certainly done that here at the New Wolsey, and you're really well known for it locally and nationally. How do you do that?
It just comes from who I am. It's to do with my values, I think. I don't really it comes very naturally. I really love meeting people.
Yeah.
Because without meeting people, you don't really understand what the needs of your community or your kind of local freelance workforce. So I come from a background, low socioeconomic background. I grew up on a council estate in Colchester, not from a theatre that really wasn't engaged in culture or the arts. And I was very lucky to have really meet brilliant people along the way, particularly drama teachers when I was younger, that made all of that possible. So I feel really lucky. And when I see people not accessing creativity and culture in the same way that I did, I really want to make sure that we find as many opportunities for people to be able to feel comfortable and excited about what that can do.
Yeah, and just theatre, for example, there's such a stigma about theatres, about they're for certain people of certain backgrounds. How do you remove that myth?
By being with people. I think it's, you have to work over a really long time as well. There's a kind of phrase which is quite often used in sort of creative engagement, kind of working at the speed of trust, is that you have to build relationships. And that's the brilliant thing about this organization, and particularly since the pandemic, actually, because we have that amazing building just across the road, which lots of people doesn't really say what it does on the tin. It needs to have some more labels on it. But for those who do know Ipswich, the one with the gold roof is our creative communities building. And so what that is, a brilliant space where we invite lots of community groups to be able to use it, share resource, and just by spending time with each over, the last 3-4 years means that we've developed these really great relationships, but also that it's not about communities coming here. It's also about going into communities as well, which, we've really ramped up that work over the last 3 years, and the team down there are doing really great jobs. We have all these amazing relationships now, which are really influencing our programs and what we do and who we are. So you have to build those relationships so that people feel more comfortable about crossing that threshold, because it is intimidating. And actually this building is slightly intimidating because of the period. It is, when you look at it, it's not very open because of all that, because of the brickwork. Yeah. I remember when we first came, there were lots of, we took everything off the windows because it just felt really important that people could see in and see what was inside. You have to, and I always bang on about, let's make sure the furniture outside for the cafe is outside because it blurs the line of the boundary of the theatre. We have to find lots of different ways of making it easy to step in.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention, actually, we are sitting in the glass box, which is upstairs, part of the upper lounge bar area. And there's a whole lot of things going on. We're in a theatre, so lots of things are going on. Noises.
Background music, furniture moving.
Yes.
Meetings being had. Yeah, I think, and also that thing about theatres as well, I think most of them it's really sad when a theatre is closed in the day. But actually they're really great free public spaces, free Wi-Fi, really. Ours particularly is a very beautiful environment, really relaxing, a bit quirky, fun. They're community hubs.
Now you, Doug, are a chief exec and an artistic director.
Yeah.
You are a man of many missions and tasks, and your day must be absolutely loaded with hundreds of responsibilities. How do you balance running a theatre, programming, being an artistic director, and just overseeing this entire building?
I don't know. I have really great support.
Yeah.
So we have a really great team. Yeah, it's there aren't many of us in the country who are chief execs and artistic directors. It is a varied skill set. I think what happens is I get into rehearsal and you go and go, oh yeah, that's that's who I am. Because essentially I am a theatre director. But I did I ran a student union when I ran a bar. I ran a venue when I was at uni, and I ran a theatre company. So I was always that kind of person who was always going to make things happen, which meant very naturally taking kind of producing role or a leadership role, because I wanted to make things happen. So if I'm at uni, I wanted to make plays. I wanted to make particular types of plays. And that's before I became a director. So I went to uni not quite knowing what I wanted to do, but I did choose university, not a drama school. Yeah. But I was acting. I wanted to be exposed to everything, but I naturally wanted to explore particular things, which meant I became a director, which meant I set up a theatre company. So I took on those leadership roles quite early on. So it's always been quite a natural.
Yeah, and it's naturally in you. I mean, you have that entrepreneurial spirit about you, and you definitely have, obviously you have all those leadership qualities. I feel like I'm doing your appraisal. I think what many people don't understand is how theatres are funded. Some are not, some are commercial. You are part funded. Can you just explain how that works here?
Yeah, there's the subsidised sector of the theatre industry, of which we are part of, and then there's the commercial side of theatre. So when we think of commercial, that's, the obvious is the West End, but then there are touring, there are shows that are tour that are commercial. The Regent Theatre is a commercial theatre. We're subsidised, and that is because we receive public subsidy primarily from the Arts Council England, which is the arm's length body from the government, which is given money by the government from taxpayers' money, which is then given out to organisations across the UK. So we're what's called a national portfolio organisation, which means we're regularly funded. We have to apply for that every 3 years. And then we also receive money from the local government. So we receive money from Ipswich Borough Council, which we're very grateful for, because obviously funding from local governments has reduced and reduced and reduced. So we're very proud that Ipswich Borough Council really believes in culture and understands the role that culture plays within the kind of well-being of its community and the identity of the town. Obviously, we lost our Suffolk County Council funding last year.
Yeah, and that had made a significant impact on you.
It did. It was not nice. If I'm really honest, it was a very unpleasant period of time for all of us that money was removed, because there really was, trying to get there was a sense that the role of culture within what it does for communities wasn't really being understood. And so I think we were all surprised by how high profile our protests became, so because it did have coverage on Channel 4 News, it was in The Guardian, it was on the front page of the Stage, which is the kind of profile. There was a lot of attention.
Yeah, well, Suffolk was one of the first counties for it to have all their arts funding cut.
Yes, I think there have been big cuts, but from actually big cities.
Right.
I think it was the first time that very blue conservative council, and essentially what was seen as a rural council, was cutting all of their subsidies. So it sort of became quite an interesting story, I think, for everybody.
Yeah. Do you think it will come back from the council? I guess we're waiting to know what's happening with the council.
Well, with devolution, yeah, definitely. I mean, everything is going to change. I mean, there are project grants that have, I think the thing that I'm incredibly proud of is that we got some money reinstated. We still lost £122,000. There is money that's being invested in culture still. So keeping that door open was actually a huge achievement, even though we lost our funding. So yeah, with devolution, with the change of what the structure of local government is going to be, it's really important that we're making those arguments for the role of culture now in whatever form local government takes.
Is Jack Abbott our guy? He is our local MP.
Yes, he is. Yeah, and he's brilliant. I was on a Zoom call with him a couple of days ago. Like, he's so super approachable, really keen to listen, really believes in the role of culture within Ipswich, obviously, because he's an MP for Ipswich. Really passionate about it. And, the USP, I believe the USP of Ipswich is its cultural infrastructure. That's its superpower. And I think that means, that's lots of different things. It's not just arts. Of course, it's it's football. It's all those amazing community groups. There's so many people doing incredible things in Ipswich for the life of the town. I mean, that is our superpower. And I think we are if you compare us to other towns of our size, it is pretty extraordinary that there is this infrastructure here.
Talking of superpowers, there is a We Are Ipswich cohort as well, as we're talking about culture in Ipswich. What's that all about?
Yeah, there's a lot of this Ipswich, that. I mean, there are lots of forums, which is really great. There's a lot of, the town's very networked up. Like, coming here was really fascinating, because I used to run the Queen's Theatre in Hornchurch in the London Borough of Havering, and that was really, it was less networked. Like, that work had to be done to create those networks. Here, those networks were here immediately, so you could meet people very quickly. I mean, obviously, you have to be careful and make sure you're meeting the people who aren't in those networks as well. But there is a thing called We Are Ipswich, which is a self-governing group of arts and heritage organisations in Ipswich. And we meet every 2 months. So it's an extraordinary bunch of people. It's Dance East. We're so going to forget people now. Dance East, Gecko, Eastern Angles, the libraries, the museums, Spill Festival, Red Rose Chain, Bright in the Corners, The Hold, Suffolk Archives. I think I've got everybody there so much. And then, then we have observers.
Ipswich Theatres
and
as well.
Ipswich Theatres, yeah.
And there is one other.
IBC.
I can't think what it is, but there
The
is
New
another.
Wolsey
I know,
Theatre.
King Street.
And we brought King Street Cinema on as well. And then other people that support culture as well. So the Business Improvement District, IBC, Wolsey 550 are on there as well. So, and we meet every 2 months. A lot of that is about skill sharing or sharing our experiences or looking for support, but also really identifying how we can work together to raise the profile of culture and art.
If people are listening are in cultural organisations within the Ipswich area, can they reach out to you to be involved in We Are Ipswich?
Yes, they can. If you look it up online, there are very clear terms of reference of of membership. And generally, it needs to be professional because obviously there's an incredible non-professional scene in Ipswich as well. But it is the professional and generally the subsidised sector of sort. Yeah. And actually, we're just about to explore bringing on further education and higher education. Mm-hmm. So kind of actually expanding what it might be, it's bringing the people into the room that can really champion arts and culture within Ipswich.
And its prime directive is to create or present Ipswich as a cultural hub for Suffolk, for East Anglia.
For the world.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, as the cultural centre of certainly Ipswich, there isn't really, as the cultural centre for Suffolk, it really is there to advocate for Ipswich being the cultural capital of Suffolk. Yeah. There isn't really a collection of that amount of arts and heritage organisations anywhere in Suffolk. And actually, you could argue East Anglia as well. It certainly is on a par, if not. I think there might be more organisations than Norwich,
really?
Which would be surprising for people.
Yeah. Right, we're going to come off that now. And I just want to hop back to funding. And then I want to talk to you about your programming, your bold programming. But quickly back to funding. You were talking about all the subsidies. You cannot exist just alone on this support. You have to make money too. Yeah,
definitely. And of course, it's getting worse as well. The percentage of our public subsidy is reducing, obviously reduced after the loss of Suffolk County Council, but our funding has not increased for a number of years. So I think our funding from Ipswich Borough Council has been the same for, I think, 7, 8, 9, maybe even longer, 11 or 12 years. And the Arts Council has been the same, I think, for 6, 7, 8 years. And so if you think about inflation, what that now represents, I think our Ipswich Borough Council funding represents 40% of what it used to be. So box office revenue is the main income. And then obviously the ancillary spend. So our Brilliant Cafe and the bar, trusts and foundations. And, the biggest change, I think, for us is working in partnership. So lots of sharing resources. A lot of that is co-producing. So our production of Noises Off, which is currently at Theatre by the Lake in Keswick.
How's it doing?
Yeah, it's doing brilliantly, yeah.
What a show. What a brilliant show that was.
And that was a four-way partnership. And so we had our first international co-production as well. So it went to Luxembourg a few weeks ago. So we have more co-producing partners than ever before. And that's where we will come together to share the costs of making a show. Because we still want to make those large-scale pieces of work, which we used to be able to make on our own. We cannot do that anymore. And then even with the creative communities work, it's on every single level. It's like we're brilliantly working with the NHS on social prescribing projects, which is they're projects we want to do because they're really transformative in terms of bringing what we were talking about earlier on is making sure the organization's really open, particularly to those people who haven't had the opportunity to come into contact with creativity. And we have funding for the Job Centre Plus as well. We're looking at working much more effectively, particularly in partnership and sharing resources. And then our brilliant supporters, because we have people who pay for membership. and that kind of levels of being a supporter. That's really, really vital for us. And we have, fortunate, we've got lots of people who are really passionate about the organisation. And then corporate sponsorship as well we've got a really good team, and brilliantly, it's been really successful to actually increase that level of sponsorship. So it's everywhere. We're looking for cash
everywhere and anywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I think there has been a certain move towards more community-focused companies wanting to get involved and support financially theatres, but we need more of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, also really interesting is that you speak to people who are running businesses, particularly in Ipswich now, and they're increasingly looking to the cultural sector because they're trying to persuade people to come back into their offices. Yeah. And so they're going, well, where's the offer in the town? What can we bring to our staff? And obviously culture is the superpower of the town. So,
yeah, and so that all links up.
You want to buy into it. Yeah.
Let's talk about programming, because that is obviously the most important thing to bring different communities on into the theatre through those doors, as you say, and sitting there watching something on the stage. You can program some really bold stuff. I know this personally. Why do you have such a flexible look at programming, and you kind of just open the door to all sorts of different shows, things that have never been on this stage before?
Yeah, I think that is the diversity of the work is really, really important, because I think theatre, if we look at the history of theatre's subsidised sector, the Wolsey Theatre and lots of other theatres at that time, and some of them still do, but they would make all of their own work. So you're producing all of your own work, probably not in co-production. That's the old model. But really what we were doing then was actually making lots of similar work. Because you've got, as an artist, I'm very attracted to particular types of work. And so that's quite tricky when you just have one artist who's defining everything that is on, because it can be a particular taste. My taste is actually very varied. So I'm actually interested in lots of different things. But, and then what happens is you're only really playing to a couple of audience segmentation. So if audiences are segmented into what they like, and what their backgrounds are. And if you look at Ipswich and you sort of dig in, I love data.
Really?
And I'm really fascinated by audiences. You have to be, if you're running an organization, and also as an artist, that's where the chief executive and the artistic director are aligned, is we both have to be thinking about audiences, not about me as an artist. Like often people go, what's the play that you most want to direct? But it's not, that's not how I approach it. Is I approach, what do our audiences want to see? And then you marry it with your own, your own creativity and ambition. But we have really, really diverse audiences in Ipswich. And if we think about that period, those last years of the Wolsey Theatre, it was making a very, very, from what I understand, I did come here at that time as well. It was as a teenager, but it was serving a really particular cohort in the audience. And then obviously the theatre closed. And what Sarah and Pete did brilliantly when they reopened the theatre, they diversified the programme. So it was producing, and also it was a visiting programme. That mechanism means you can bring all sorts of things onto your stage. And it's really, really important for me that when you look at our season, that there is something for lots of different audiences. That's going back to making sure it feels open. If it's all Samuel Beckett,
yeah,
you're really limiting who's going. Samuel Beckett's amazing. I would like to do Samuel Beckett, but you're limiting what? Or if it's all Shakespeare. I mean, I love Shakespeare, but if it's all Shakespeare, it's you're
the RSC.
You're the RSC.
Yeah,
exactly. So it gives us the flexibility. I mean, when we're producing and something is running for 3.5 weeks, it needs to be a big, maybe recognizable title, or it needs to be something that we know is going to really ignite a lot of people. But then that doesn't mean that we can't, for one night or 2 nights, do a really radical, bold piece of contemporary work, because there's also a brilliant audience for that work. And we want to expose more and more people to that brilliant contemporary work, because actually that's where the big questions are probably going to be explored more explicitly in the work. And theatre is about asking those questions. And even the big popular pieces of work, generally, even if it's Footloose, and this speaks to me as an artist of what I'm interested in, and it's probably why I like a varied range of work, is at the heart of Footloose is a story around the censorship of youth voice. And that's a brilliant story. It just happens to be a really brilliant, joyful musical in the form. And actually musicals, I didn't direct musicals until relatively recently. And when I did my first musical, which was made in Dagenham, which was a co-production here and was here, I got very excited by the genre, because you see a whole audience standing up to a song which was about female empowerment and equality. That's great. It's really manipulative.
Do you know what? I really want to ask you that. When you've directed a show, you've directed Footloose. First night, every member of that audience is on their feet, clapping, cheering. How does that feel?
Oh, it's great.
Is that why you do it?
Yeah, you do it because I always feel, and I always give artists this when they're making pieces of work, is to think about the last beat of whatever you're doing, if it's a play or a devised piece or it's a musical, is to go, where is the audience going to be at the end of the piece? Or how different is that going to be from when they entered into the auditorium? Something needs to have happened to an audience. And that can be, and I'm talking emotionally, for me, some emotion must have been stirred up. And so it can be laughter, it can be tears, it can be a kind of euphoria. And if that hasn't happened, if something hasn't impacted us physically, then I sort of feel that a piece of theatre hasn't done its work.
There's something about that personal connection as well that you feel when you are watching the actors on the stage. Is that sort of, apart from feeling represented and all those things that we talk about, but that real connection with them? Is it the fourth wall that you call it?
Yeah, it depends what piece it is. But I think, and also that's why our theatre is so exciting, because it's super, super intimate. You have a real connectivity with what's on stage. It has to communicate itself really, really clearly. That's whether it's a piece that has the fourth wall, which means we're imagining the more kind of voyeuristic experience of watching something where they're in a drawing room and they're playing out their lives, but we're not there. Of course, we always know as actors, really you should know we're always there, because we're always communicating that story, whether there's a fourth wall or not. For me, it's really, really important that to make sure that story is connecting. And as a director, that's what I will be obsessed with, is the quality of the storytelling and making sure that it has that emotion. It's really clear. People know what's going on. Even if it's a really complex play, that is connecting emotionally with them as well. So I'm doing Don't Look Now next.
Yeah.
Which is a supernatural thriller.
Terrifying story.
Yeah, I've always wanted to make something that's terrifying.
Right.
Because it comes back to that experience of something needs to happen to the audience. But Don't Look Now is a really great story, because I think why it works, why it's terrifying, and why it's so unnerving is because of the couple at the heart of it who have lost a child and are grieving. And that child is, attempting to reach out to both of them. That's what makes it so poignant. I think it's deeply moving and also terrifying at the same time. So that's a really great proposition to go, let's terrify people, but also make them really, really connect with the characters on stage.
It's a drama. It's a thriller. It's not a horror. It's more psychological.
It's more psychological, yeah, definitely, yeah. But that I think because obviously we had the film, the 1970s film, and it was written in the late 60s, is that actually that era of horror thriller was so much more psychological, and I think and the best, like the best of the genre. And it's interesting in terms of where film more recently has gone, is it's returned. So we think of Midsommar or Hereditary or, some of those really extraordinary films. Filmmaking is sort of returning back to that style of the genre.
There's a sort of noir to it.
Yeah.
There's a sort of style to it. I cannot wait to see it on the stage. I don't know what you're going to do with it. That's really quite exciting too, because you obviously direct so many different sorts of plays, productions, musicals, and God knows. Have you, I bet you have, come up with a show or a play that you're going to put on that's divided the room utterly and completely?
Not here, I haven't. I think it's interesting. I did the Queen's Theatre. It was a real risk, and it was an exciting risk. Is that we revived a play. So the Queen's Theatre Hornchurch is in Outer East London, sort of / Essex. And there is a writer from Romford, so Hornchurch is very close to Romford, called David Eldridge, who's one of Britain's best playwrights, contemporary playwrights. And he wrote a brilliant play called In Basildon. So Hornchurch is not far from Basildon. And it was at the Royal Court Theatre, and it was a huge success. It was a massive hit. And it felt, the Royal Court is in Chelsea. And it's like, I'm not sure the audience from the place that it's written for have had access to that play. And it's an extraordinary play. It's a very, very important contemporary play. And what it's looking at is a comedy, but also it's looking at some of the big issues of now, even before they sort of reared their heads. It's about working class communities in Basildon. And it is really sweary.
Yeah.
It has the C-bomb in it, and probably 5 or 6 times. And there was that real, question. It's like, am I going to be brave enough to do this? And you're like, well, it's at the Royal Court, and it's about this place, and it's brilliantly about this place, and it's really true. David is from a working class background, Essex, Outer East London background, and it's absolutely brilliantly and carefully created to be truly representative of the communities that he grew up in and that he knows. And it split audiences because the middle class audience thought it was outrageous and that they didn't want to see that behavior on stage. But it sold out.
Oh, wow.
And it brought in the lower socioeconomic audiences because they were thrilled to see themselves being represented truthfully on stage. And it was a hit. So, I mean, what do you learn from that? I mean, it did the thing that it wanted to, what I wanted it to do was have a piece of theatre on stage that was absolutely rooted in the place of where that theatre is and represent people who are not normally seen on stage. So it goes back to those. It goes back to those values, though.
It goes back to those values. It goes back to your gut. It goes back to you being a bit daring and bold, and that's what makes a good artistic director today.
Mm-hmm. And you balance it. You make sure you balance the program.
It's hard for you to take the compliment, but you have. It is actually what is so important to keep that variety.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
this theatre open and alive.
And I'm looking for those big stories, those big. So obviously we've done Footloose, we've done Noises Off, we did Kinky Boots. We've done those big titles. I do feel there's an appetite for the new work, and I've been here 3 years, and it has taken that long to start to get those big new projects happening.
So go on. No, sorry. I didn't mean to
we
interrupt
have a big one coming, and I can't give it away what it is until we announce, but it's a really exciting project. I mean, I can tell you what it is the first show of an East Anglian touring consortium, which is Theatre Royal Bury St Edmunds, Mercury Theatre, Queen's Theatre Hornchurch, Landmark Theatre, Peterborough, us, High Tide and Eastern Angles all coming together to realise a brand new work. And it's a new musical, and it's a big story of East Anglia, from East Anglia, that people are going to really, really connect with.
And when's that coming onto the stage?
Spring next year. And
you'll be directing it.
And I'm directing it. So we're finally, and there's another big play in the offing about Ipswich as well. So we're getting to those new big plays that are speaking, hopefully will really resonate with audiences here.
No, that's we'll keep ourselves posted on the website and listening out
definitely,
for when that's coming.
And we've got a big revival of a British musical coming as well in a co-production too, which will be next year as well. So there are lots of lovely things coming.
But for now, it's Don't Look Now, which is coming on the stage.
Yeah, Don't Look Now, and I think the also one of the things I'm really excited about is Black Sheep, which is a great, brilliant piece of drama about farming communities in East Anglia. Super, super inventive, very, very moving. Play over a number of generations, all set in one farm in Norfolk, and it's by a brilliant company called Curious Directive, who are an East Anglian company. And I saw that piece of work, I think a year and a half ago, and I found it deeply, deeply moving and surprising and brilliant. And so you go, this piece of work, people in Ipswich and Suffolk need to have access to this piece of work, because yes, it's set in Norfolk, but it is also talking about rural farming life, which obviously is so important to this region. So that's a really exciting piece of drama coming.
A quick mention for Beauty and the Beast. I think that's your big rock and roll panto this year. Very excited for that. It looks, actually I tried to book seats for it the other day and it was fully booked on the night I wanted to. I realise it's around Christmas.
You need to sort yourself out.
I do need to sort myself out. Right. I want to just talk about you now just for a second, and then we'll leave you because I know you're busy. You're doing a triathlon this weekend.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes, I'm doing Felixstowe Triathlon. How I am very goal-based with my exercise regime, and that's because my hours are so wild. I don't really have a routine. So the only way I can force myself to do exercise is by putting something really big in the diary. And the triathlon is my first triathlon, and it came about, it's Felixstowe Triathlon. I love Felixstowe. I used to run, so I did marathons, and then I had an injury, and so I stopped running, and then I switched. So this is during the pandemic, and I went and had swimming lessons, and so I learned to do the front crawl really properly, and I was really disciplined. I did all the drills. My front crawl is great; it's really great, and I really love swimming. And also, I've always been a cyclist. So living in London for, 20 years, I've always cycled because it's quicker than public transport. And moving here to Suffolk, I bought a road bike. And so, because I don't drive, so that I could explore, it was a way of getting out and exploring Suffolk. So I picked up swimming and I picked up cycling, and I did Ride London last year, which was 100 miles. And I was like, oh, well, I've got these two disciplines. Let's see if I can get my running back. And so to force myself to do that, I was like, I'll do a triathlon. So I'm doing a triathlon.
Yeah. Slightly crazy, but slightly brilliant too. How far do you have to run?
10K.
Okay. Cycle?
Yeah, cycle 40K and a 1.5 kilometer sea swim.
And you start with the swim? Start
with the swim, then you do the cycling, and then the running is the tricky bit because it's still quite new. But Felixstowe is beautiful, and it's gonna be a great place to do all of that.
And it's a bit late to sponsor you, or can anybody sponsor you at any point?
We could probably keep it open.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm raising money for the theatre.
Yeah.
All the creative communities.
Thought you were.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're not running, swimming and cycling, directing, leading, tell us just what else is about you, Doug. What drives you? What makes you?
I love gigs. I really love gigs. I love music. So I've seen some really great gigs this year. And a whole range of music as well. Friends. Really love my friends and just hanging out with them. Yeah, when I can find time. And they're all spread across the country now. So actually making time to see people. I'm going to Skye in August for a week. And it's a bit crazy because they can't pick me up. So I have really close friends, university friends, who have bought a place in Skye. They have a place in Stratford as well, but I haven't seen their place. So I'm going to go to Skye. They can't pick me up because they're working when I arrive. So I'm taking my bike. So the last section. So I take my bike on the train. I take my bike on a bus. I leave at 6 o'clock in the morning from Euston. I arrive at 6 o'clock in the evening on the Isle of Skye. And I have to do the last 10 miles on my bike. So I'm taking my bike so I can do it. And I think it's got 1,500 foot ascent on the first part.
Okay.
So I'm really making an effort to go and see.
Yeah. Your friends are really important. They are so important to have such great friends, aren't they? Because they're the people who really know you. Can't you fly to Skye?
No, you can't. I don't think there's an airport. You can go to Inverness and then catch the train. I was late in booking, so it was cheaper to
then there it is.
Go up to Glasgow and then get on a bus.
So to donate to the theatre around your triathlon, we can just have a look on social media and find the connects there.
Yeah, if you look on the theatre social media, there'll be posts about it. Yeah.
Great. And I'll locate that to put in the show notes of this episode. And for booking anything that's what's on at the theatre, it's wolseytheatre.co.uk. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Absolutely brilliant. It's been so interesting to get more under the skin of the theatre and understand what you do and your role. So I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. We'll speak to you again soon. Thanks for listening to the Suffolk Pod Show. Find us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, or you can visit our website, podtalk.co.uk. And here's our disclaimer.
The Suffolk Pod Show will not be held responsible for any omissions or errors in its podcast.
The Suffolk Pod Show is produced purely for entertainment purposes. Views and opinions are that of our own or that of our guests.